in the 1980s, we saw a connectivity. The future of the world is connectivity. Get as much connectivity as you can. And the feeling was, this will heal the world. Get people to connected to each other. Those who were in those initial BitNet groups and BBSs and even CompuServe, AOL, there was that general feeling, the more connected we can get with each other, the better things are going to be for everybody. And then when the internet opened up suddenly in 91, and there was this flood of voices, and the signal to noise ratio became unbearable, then already we saw, hey, this is not working. This is not the way it's supposed to go. But the greatest surprise, though, didn't really come till after you had the smartphone, which really took off, say, around 2012 and so on. And this was really a shock. The teenage suicide, especially, and adolescent girls harming themselves, the bullying that goes on, the loneliness that comes. Loneliness is the worst disease, especially on campus today. How is this possible that connectivity brings to loneliness, bullying, anguish, suicide? Connectivity. What's happened over here?
I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what connectivity really is or how to achieve it, and that it is not through a World Wide Web, which just spreads us all so thinly. It is actually through deep face-to-face encounters.
I'd like to find where is somebody that's using the technology in such a way. And many of the ways that we thought technology were going to be used for the good have still not been implemented. We talk about this hyper world, hyper connections and hypertext. The original idea was that not that everything would become interconnected, it's already interconnected, but that I would be able to connect all of my information together. I would be able to make all these hyperlinks. So the World Wide Web didn't do that. The World Wide Web, I think, was at its very initial stage was poor technology. It was a poor implementation of it. HTML became XML, and the way the web was organized. I mean, like the internet side of the web pages doesn't give the user enough control. It never did. So it's from its initial implementation, and then Facebook also doesn't give us control. A lot of it has to do with we're being provided something for free. Whenever somebody gives you something for free, you have a lot of questions to ask. Just a minute, am I getting this for free because you like me? Is because I did something for you? If you look a little deeper, you might find out that really it's not something's being given to you for free, but you are being given to someone else for free. You are the merchandise. So the model, perhaps maybe this is where it all comes down to, the model is wrong.
We need to be able to explain how we make money. And if we can't explain well how we make money, then there's probably something unethical going on. And that's what you see with Facebook, right? Facebook don't like to tell you how they make money, that they make money by invading your privacy, that they make money by listening and by selling things that you don't want to sell.
Yeah. I remember you saying to me once that you said there's one question I can ask to any company I can tell whether they're ethical or not. I ask them, what is your mandate? And if they have one, they are an ethical company. So perhaps you're extending it a little here. Are you open about how you make money.
Mm.
That's another question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I want to be able to feel that I'm giving as much as I'm getting. If I'm not giving commensurate some way to what I'm getting, then something's going wrong over here. Maybe I am giving something that I don't even know that I'm giving. That's problematic. The beauty of the Chavrusa is that neither one is the teacher. And the whole notion of teacher really has to be re-examined. In Hebrew and in Yiddish, you say you're learning together. It's not I'm teaching him, but I'm learning with him.
Mm.
Let me learn this with you. And even if you know more than the other person, and you're the one delivering information and guiding the other person to how to learn this material, how to study, how to examine it, but you're learning from that experience. So if you're not learning from this experience, that's strong evidence that the other person's not learning either, or not gaining anything from you. You always know that the other person is gaining something from you when you're feeling it back here. It's coming back to you. So we all have to be creators. That's what I meant about the original web and Facebook. It doesn't allow us to be creators. The true power of digital technology is the power it gives us to all create. We can create things that we never thought before we could create.
In 15 Paths, which you shared with David, which just echoes what you're saying here. And, reading it was, it was just so beautifully put, but it's about how we reconceive of this idea of teacher. And I think there was a teacher in the classroom and a student was challenging him on something. He's asking him to clarify and clarify and clarify further. And finally, the professor lands on something that resonates and that, congeals in the head of the student. And he says, "So why didn't you just say that to begin with?" And the professor responds, "Well, because I didn't know that that's what I was trying to say." And it was this, it for me, totally encapsulates the dynamism of that relationship and the reciprocity of it. And that the quote unquote instructor finally also had the epiphany of what's really the meaning as a result of the dialogue with the student. And for me, the very best teachers and the very best leaders and the very best directors that I have had the good fortune to encounter are the ones who aren't intimidated by questions and are the ones who sometimes answer my questions with further questions. And I think this is something that, David and I had spoken about, but if this current moment doesn't highlight the artificiality of having answers, then, I don't know what does. And how do we encourage people to be unafraid of questions?
I think you're not just talking about questions, but for example, if you're an expert and you have to explain something to somebody. So I was watching yesterday a YouTube physicist explaining gravity and explaining it, and I'm shaking my head at, he's saying a lot of words. He's giving you all these examples, but he's in another universe. I mean, he's just saying these things. It's like, this is just a fact. Well, there's this space-time, and space-time is curved by the mass. And tell me, what is space-time? So I don't have that interaction with him. So what's happening is he's delivering, I'm not really receiving except for a bunch of words. Whereas if I would have an interaction with him and I could say to him, what do you mean by that? What is that? And then if he's a real teacher, he would say, yeah, what do I mean by that? Well, it's like this. And I would say, and he would say, well, I guess it's not like that. It's actually like this. Oh, I see. And now both of us are learning. So that's an interaction where the goods are intellectual. I think the same thing has to happen with every transaction between human beings, that each one feels, I really gained from that. The person who got the product really gains. The person who sold the product really gained. They gain from the interaction with another human being. Hey, we put something together over here that now is so beautiful. That's what's supposed to happen.
You know, in the book, the term I use for that is transformative cooperation. You know, I make the argument that too often in the business world anyway, the paradigm we try to use is that of the team player. The team player is the person who's quiet, who's benched, who knows their role, right? Who takes the hit. Whereas transformative cooperation is one where everyone involved is changed from working together, even if you're on other sides of the team. In other words, there can be transformative cooperation between competitors, right? Two firms can compete to try and make the world a more ethical place. You're always doing something ethical. Or if you're not, right, then that's a problem.
This idea that somehow making money off of somebody else is dirty. Getting him to sign at the bottom line is dirty. If he gave you money, that's dirty. Why? Why? It's a good thing. He got something, you got something. The world became more valuable. There's more value in the world right now. Why not? We're all in this thing putting stuff together. So, and really, I do think that initially you saw that in people with technology, that many people went into and created these things because they felt, yeah, this is good. This is connecting the world. It's connecting everybody. The most horrible, dirty word that I know in all of technology is this word user. The only other place I know people are called users is in drugs on the street.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not supposed to be any such thing as a user.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they mean by a user? Is merely the one that we're using.
Mm-hmm.
So we have the hardware, we have the software, and we have the user.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all at this end, and we're manipulating all of that. So it's just a bad term, probably invented in the Manhattan Project or NASA or somewhere, but it's a big computer term that's left with us now. And I'm optimistic, truthfully, I am optimistic that we'll get through this passage with digital media and we'll get somewhere better with it. But we need to get those good people who have good things inside them to bring that goodness into this, realize that, and that it's not it's not in conflict with making more money. That it's just a matter of getting past this dichotomy, this horrible dichotomy built into society between material value and spiritual value. It's all one thing. It can be one thing. Bring that down to earth.
These exchanges that you so, hopefully describe, and which David calls transformational cooperation. What I hear in these descriptions is that there's a requirement for a porousness, for a vulnerability to concede. Actually, when you push me on that, I don't really know. Or actually, there's the possibility of a whole other depth of understanding that I'm being invited by you to discover. And I think where we encounter obstacles is that there is no such softness in the world. Like there is no such vulnerability. Like where did this allergy to softness come from?
Well, I think that's built into the algorithms themselves. It's not that I can look at the difference between shares and reach. So some things people want to share it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not getting the reach because the algorithm doesn't want to share it. If I would put a picture of a gun in there, the algorithm would share it, but the people might not want to share it. So that's, I'm talking about a flaw in the technology. As far as the people are concerned, well, of course, the problem with our technology originates in us. We're always afraid the science fiction story of the machines will become self-aware and then they'll take over and everything. They don't have to become self-aware. They are our awareness. They have our awareness inside them. They're simply extensions of humanity.
You know,
So-
Tzvi, we've talked about this a lot, this idea of the evil algorithm over time. And I don't know where you get your optimism from. Where can we find hope that folks trying to connect on the internet will be able to connect without playing the ugly game of guns and violence, of anger, of screaming, instead of those of us like right now who just want to calmly chat and explore differences peacefully, right? If I wrote that as a descriptor, right? 3 people talking peacefully, 0 YouTube views. I guarantee 0 YouTube views if that's our keywords. So where's your hope from?
You're taking the empirical scientist's approach to life where, okay, show me the evidence. And that's not my attitude at all. My attitude is good things will happen because we believe they will. It's our belief that drives it. So if we're going to be pessimistic and say, this is not going to work, it won't work. So what was the point? What did you achieve by being a pessimist? Better to believe, I would rather be a disappointed optimist than a pessimist who can say, I told you so. So what? So we need that optimism to survive. And I can give you empirical evidence. I don't think that's really relevant. What is the point in saying otherwise? What I was getting at is that we can heal the technology by starting where does this start within the human being? And I think really that the failure of our technology is very often because of that dichotomy, that polarized human being who lives in these 2 universes, his spiritual universe but I got to make a living universe. Now, Amelia, imagine all businesses being like acting. Because most actors that I know, okay, there's a lot of bad stuff in acting, but the idealist actor who's trying to find herself through acting. And in each role that you take, you discover something new about yourself. And each role is a new exploration of life for you. It's a learning process, or as an artist.
And I think that it actually even transcends self. And the quest is for a communion with the other people on the stage with you, and moreover with the people in the audience. And that for me is the real power of that medium, is that it only exists in relationship to the people receiving it.
Yeah, there's like a good musician is one, he's not playing his instrument, he's not playing the music, he's playing the audience. That's what makes it so beautiful. Just the life of a musician it just drives people insane, but otherwise, but an artist feels, I'm painting because I need to paint. I'm discovering myself in my painting. And when I see patrons look at the art and enjoying it, that gives, I get something from it. Okay, I have to sell it. Yeah, making a living. But mainly, if nobody would be paying me, I would still be doing this. So there are crafts like that. So what I'm saying is that every business in the world really is that way. You sell somebody a soda over a counter. In that activity of selling somebody something, it's supposed to be an activity of transformation, as David put it. Every activity human activity should be an activity of discovery of yourself, discovery of the universe, discovery of the other person. The greatest discovery any person can have in life is that there's another person over here who is not me, who dares to think differently. And you discover that.
that mitzvah is a moment where you open yourself up to transformation and you create the space to connect with another, whether that other is God, whether that other is another human being, whatever it may be. But I define that idea of mitzvah, where I think it has a secular possibility, as engaging in an action, not because it's a good deed or a bad deed. That's a terrible translation of mitzvah, right? Not because it's a commandment. That's an even worse, association. But this notion of wanting to open up a space where I can connect with the other, where I can transform with the other. And when you bring in this language of mitzvah, what's beautiful about the language of mitzvah, in my mind, is it makes things that normally we don't view as ethical into the realm of ethical. Maybe what Judaism can bring to this moment, to our secular moment, is the idea of looking in every action that you do, looking that it's a mitzvah, looking that it opens up a space to connect with another and create something good.
So what you're saying is that every act should be an act of transcendence.
Mhm.
Transcendence of self, transcendence
Mhm.
of the previous universe that you were living in just a moment
Mhm.
ago, and something new opens up to you now.
Mhm.
You realize how other people see you. You realize how big the universe is. I needed window panes for my house, and this guy needs money to support his family, and the two of us came together, and it worked. That should be a transcendental experience.
Mhm.
Two people put their needs together, and it created something new. Something came of that. There's nothing in human life that's not an opportunity for transcendence. The material world has to be seen. This is also part of God's universe. It's beautiful. There's beauty in anything that you can touch.